Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the DLC Drop Podcast. Today it's my pleasure to welcome Wayne Kimmel, Managing Partner of 76 Capital. We're going to talk all about investments in esports, where the revenue's coming from, where the investment opportunities are, traditional sports versus esports, and also some insights onto how entrepreneurs can get Wayne's attention. Join me in talking to Wayne. Drop in the untold stories of industry leaders, influencers, and insights on future innovation. I'm John Davidson, and this is the DLC Drop Podcast. All right, Wayne Kimmel, Managing Partner of 76 Capital. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Oh, man, it's so great to be here, John. I really appreciate you having me on the show.
Absolutely. You know, we've had over 100 guests to date, and we haven't had anybody who's really been able to speak into the investment side at a very deep level. And so having had a number of conversations with you, known you for a few years, and then just watching what you and the team are doing, I'm super excited to dig into your career path, what 76 Capital is doing, and where you're seeing the market going. So to start us off, share with our audience, what is 76 Capital? What are your goals there?
So at 76 Capital, my partners and I are investors in the entrepreneurs who are creating the next thing in the sports industry. So that's everything from what's happening from within the sports betting industry, the gaming world, esports, and just anything that has to do with sports and tech. We want to be those seed investors to back those entrepreneurs to help them really build their business to the next level.
Interesting. And so I know with different types of investors, you're typically coming in at different levels. Is there a certain point that you specialize in where you really want to come in with a client?
Absolutely. I mean, at 76 Capital, we traditionally want to be one of the first investors in a company. We want to be there with those entrepreneurs, with those individuals who are truly trying to do something new and innovative and help them from the very beginning as they start their journey. So sometimes that you hear things like pre-seed or seed or early stage. We want to be that really, really early money into those companies, help them grow, sit on their boards, and provide them anything and everything that we can to help them be successful.
Interesting. And so what are some of the parameters? I know, there's a lot of startups, especially nowadays, who are looking for investment. I know I've sent you a few people over to you to say, hey, is this a fit? Is this not? For those entrepreneurs who are listening, can you help us understand, how do I understand if I'm a great fit to apply for an investment with 76 Capital?
So for us, I mean, it really comes down, the initial piece of everything that we do comes down to the individual that we're going to be investing in, that entrepreneur, those two co-founders or whatever it is. And we look for certain traits, right? I mean, typically, it's all entrepreneurs. I'll speak at, kind of as what everyone kind of looks for and then what we look for. So, everyone really wants an entrepreneur that's really passionate about what they're doing. They have that incredible desire and drive and persistence that, no matter what happens, they get knocked down, they get told no. They're gonna keep moving forward. And that's really, really important for us when we look at entrepreneurs. But on top of all that, we really look for entrepreneurs that are really smart, are really smart people. And it doesn't mean book smart. It means they're smart about what they're going after and what they're going to go do. And then we want to work with entrepreneurs also that are nice people, that are good people that we want to actually have a long-term relationship with, someone that we're going to spend a lot of time with over the years. And quite frankly, many times, everything's not going to be rosy all the time. There may be situations where we're going to have really tough conversations. There are going to be times when we have to think about, in some cases, really great things, thinking about, growing the business, raising more money, merging with another company or buying another company or doing really fun stuff like that. But then there's other situations where it's like, man, we're going to have to let some people go. This is not a really fun time, so there, you really want to find someone that you can develop a good relationship with, because as very early stage investors in these companies, we get to know the entrepreneurs, extremely intimately. And so it's important for that. And then the last piece for us, or the really other big thing, is like, we want to get behind entrepreneurs and companies that could do really big things, traditionally like game-changing things, like change the world type opportunities, really, really doing things that will be big. Because we're very early stage investors, startup investors, we have that opportunity to really swing for the fences and really try to do something that's completely new. If someone, one of the things that some people will ask me, they'll ask me about a company and they're like, man, I don't understand what they're really doing. Mm-hmm. And I'll say, exactly. That's what we're looking for. We're looking to invest in companies that people don't fully understand, because if they fully understand and fully grasp what they're doing at this moment, then it's true. It's not something that's innovative. It's not the next thing. It's not something that in 2-3 years, as they build this business, everyone else is like, oh yeah, of course, that's what I'm gonna do. That I'm gonna put a piece of glass in my pocket and sit down on it, like that. I mean, when you think about the iPhone, right? I mean, it's a piece of glass. Your mom said, don't sit on glass, right? Or don't sit on something like that. If you sit on glass, it could break. But what do? We all sit on iPhones today. So like, that was something that new. It's like, people, one of my favorites is like, you think about like Uber, right? You were taught as a kid, don't get in cars with strangers. But what's right. Uber? What's Lyft? You're actually ordering a car from a stranger to get into, then take me somewhere, stranger.
As long as they don't have ice cream, that's my red flag. If they offer me ice cream, I'm not getting that Uber. But yeah, otherwise, yes, I'm tracking. The DLC Drop podcast is sponsored by Ice Shaker. I've been a huge fan of this brand for the past few years, ever since I met founder Chris Gronkowski. What I love about this product is the brand story, the functionality, and the customization. Ice Shaker is a Shark Tank company invested in by Mark Cuban and Alex Rodriguez, owned by NFL players Rob Gronkowski and Chris Gronkowski. I love using my Ice Shaker anytime I'm driving to the podcast studio, I'm going skateboarding, or I'm at the gym. No matter what I'm doing, it just does a great job of keeping my drinks hot or cold. The customization for Ice Shaker is something that's super unique. You can get any name, just about any logo engraved onto your Ice Shaker and delivered to you within just 3 to 5 business days. Get your own DLC Drop branded Ice Shaker at iceshaker.com/DLC Drop. Save 20% on all Ice Shaker products with the discount code DLC Drop.
So anyway, these are the types of things for us when we look at opportunities across the sports industry. We really want to find those entrepreneurs that are pushing the limits, and we hopefully can both together believe that we can achieve, in many cases, the impossible together.
Wonderful. So I'm hearing you. So you're getting in early. You're looking for innovative entrepreneurs, and technologies, things of that nature. How do you go about balancing that risk of, I'm hearing you, okay, I don't understand it, but how do I understand it enough to believe that it's worth, there's a good chance I'm going to get a return on it?
Well, I think it's important for us as the investors in the company to really, understand it and dig in with the entrepreneur to be able to understand what they're really going to go do. What I was referring to earlier is that some people may not, others may not have spent the time, really are sort of thinking about what potentially could happen in the next couple of years. So for us, it's really important to be on the same page as the entrepreneur. We're there with them. We always talk about, my partner Chad and I, we always say, like, when an entrepreneur becomes part of the 76 Capital family, when we invest in that company, we jump on their side of the table. We're partners with them. We're arm in arm. All our contacts are their contacts. Any of our relationships are their relationships moving forward. So we try to do everything we can to help those entrepreneurs be successful in whatever they're trying to go do.
That's really interesting. So as a investor, you're injecting capital into a business. What are some of the other services or some of the other benefits for somebody to get in with you?
Yeah, I think, all part of it is, our understanding of the global sports industry, and the relationships that we have across the industry, whether that's with teams, leagues, brands, publishers. To be able to help the entrepreneurs that we get behind and give them a warm introduction into a lot of those situations. Also, at the same time, we're able to help our entrepreneurs with the experience that we have. I've been in the venture capital business now for 23 years, investing in startups, really knowing sort of how things, there's, as I said earlier, kind of there's the ups and downs of building a company. There are going to be times when everything's great and everything
Right.
seems like you're going right to the moon. You say to the moon now. I guess that you got to be careful with the whole FTX thing, right? So,
Right.
but like there are times, right, where it's like, man, this everything's good, but then there are going to be times when things get rough, and we also, by being able to develop a really great relationship with the co-founders, the entrepreneurs behind the business, we're able to coach them, be their friend,
Hmm.
just be a sounding board for them, talk to them at 11 o'clock at night when they just had this really rough day and they come home and their head hurts and they're like, man, I just need to talk to somebody to, be able to help me. Or it could be talking to them. It could be, we have Slack channels, direct with all of our companies. We have back and forth conversations all the time with them. They could, text us, email, whatever it is, but like we constant connections and conversations back and forth are so important, so that we can do the best that we can to help them think about things. And again, sometimes they're positive, sometimes they're negative. Sometimes it's like, listen, I just met this amazing new person. I want to hire this person. It's above budget that we planned.
Yeah.
And we talk about it. And we talk about these opportunities. We talk about, you won't believe this. I just got this amazing new client. Like where we just got this awesome new customer. We just brought in another $1 million from another investor, or we just got this customer and they're paying us $1 million to do XYZ. Like those are the most exciting things to happen. And, I love it, man. I love every day of it, and hopefully it's mostly positive news, but you never know, but you got to just be there. For us, it's about being there, for the entrepreneurs and helping them build a successful business.
Yeah, you talk about the network, understanding the landscape, having relationships in sports and esports technology, etc. I'm really interested to dig in a little bit with you of some of the differences with traditional and esports. I think we're seeing a lot of things happen right now where traditional sports models are being applied to esports, and I think in some ways that's very relevant. In some ways, it's not as relevant. What are some of the differences from your perspective as an investor, traditional sports versus esports, and then let's kind of take it from there.
One of the things that I actually, I really, one of the things I've learned, I guess, over the last several years is a lot of the esports and gaming entrepreneurs are tremendous physical athletes as well. I think that's one of the things that's really been a surprise, I guess, for me, where I'll use, John Fazio as an example, the CEO of Nerd Street Gamers. He was a semi-pro soccer player,
Oh, wow.
tremendous athlete, incredible competitor. The guy, Chris, I call him, the guys at Challenger, those guys both, are competitive athletes, that's something that I think is a really important thing. And it's not only just on esports. A lot of the sports related companies, a lot of the companies that I've invested over the years that were outside of the sports industry prior to 6 years ago, a lot of the most successful entrepreneurs were real competitors, whether that was, playing a video game or playing a game, basketball, football, soccer, whatever it is. Those types of, traits as a competitor are really, really valuable. So to me, I think what I've learned is that there's not a lot of difference behind the types of entrepreneurs, because look, we all want to win, whatever that game is. We want to win the game that we're playing. We want to win that game that we're we're competing in the business world. We want to win that meeting. We want to win that client. We're all competitive. We all want to be successful. We all want to, take our business from one level to hopefully, a much higher level. So for me, that's something that I've learned is not different. From a traditional sports, tech sort of company and an esports company, the competitive drive of the entrepreneurs, the way, how, the way the entrepreneurs think, mm-hmm. and just the level of, intellect is, it's, you just got to look, you got to be smart. You got to be aggressive. You got to be someone that, and you got to be resilient. I think that's one of the things I mentioned earlier. I mean, it's one of the reasons we have a number of athletes that are involved with us at 76 Capital and what we call as our athlete venture group. And one of the lessons that a lot of the athletes, not only I wouldn't want to use the word teach, but in many cases, I'll use that anyway. But one of the things that they talk about is the fact that, especially like a football player, and I'll use, a guy like Emmanuel Sanders, who's someone who is an investor in Nerd Street Gamers with us. He's also involved with us at 76, and he just retired. He was an NFL wide receiver, Super Bowl champion, now on the NFL Network, but a big gamer. And he used to play Apex with John after Monday Night Football games. I mean, they would play together. I mean, it was great. But one of the things that he would always talk about is like this idea that when he got knocked down, he just popped back up. Yeah. And he would say that, he's like, sometimes I got hit so hard by that safety, and man, that hurt. Mm-hmm. But you know what? I knew I had to get back up and play again. And it's the same thing in business where, you're going to have a situation where something's not going to go your way. You may not have the success that you had hoped in that meeting or in that negotiation or whatever. But you know what? You get back up, you move forward, and you go at it again. And you look at it like that. You don't cry about it. You don't get upset over it. You just keep moving forward. And I think that's one of the things that this translates across any sort of entrepreneur, no matter what they're doing. But to hear it from some superstar athletes is really an amazing thing. And it's one of the things that we try to do with a lot of our CEOs and our companies at 76 Capital.
That's really cool. I can relate to that from my skateboarding background, and I've had a number of guests on the show. And I just heard a podcast with Rob Dyrdek from Ridiculousness, Rob and Big Fantasy Factory, MTV star and former pro skater. He's talking about the exact same thing, is that, what we do for fun, we fall on concrete for fun, we get back up, we might put hours and hours of work into that 3 seconds of catching the trick and rolling away. And it's true with traditional sports as well. One thing that I see that is also consistent skateboarding and esports is the entrepreneurial nature. And so in skateboarding, typically the best skater on a team gains popularity, branches off, starts his own company, and then it happens again and again. We see this in esports as well. Nadeshot's a perfect example where, Optic, Nadeshot, comes up as a star on the team, branches off on his own, starts 100 Thieves. I'm sure it'll happen again where, one of his top guys is going to branch off. And then when you so you have that entrepreneurial nature of the industry, and then you have just a comfort with technology too, because you have everybody in this industry has been playing games their whole life. They've been hooking up their Xbox or their PlayStations when they go over to their friend's house or helping to produce a LAN party. Have you seen that assist in the amount of startups or type of startups in the esports market?
It's a really interesting point. I mean, I think, today, look, young people, I can now say that I'm, gosh, it's crazy, 52 years old, man, John, it's crazy, but
sounds young to me. It's a young 52. Young 52.
I mean, I feel still like I'm young, and I got 2 kids in college, man. It's crazy, but like, when I see, they used to be tech skills. Like our parents used to look at us as like, oh yeah, go fix that VCR or go fix that. Yeah. What something's messed up with, some kind of technology in the house. Can you go set up that, that TV or this internet thing's messed up? Go do that. Now, these are just everyday life skills. These are things that we all should we kind of know all of this stuff now. But I think what you're saying and I agree with you, is that a lot of the esports entrepreneurs certainly are able to take this to a whole nother level because of what you were describing. Is you're able to sort of, as you said, sort of set up your own LAN party. But at the same time, but if you want to be able to do that at the highest of levels, and that's one of the incredible things that we've learned and gotten to do, work so closely with the team at Nerd Street with that, is really to sort of take it to a professional level, and make it as if you're playing, at the highest of levels. That's really hard to do. But again, but the tendencies and the fact that it's something that it's an easier thing for a lot of the people, a lot of our employees at Nerd Street and a lot of the team members, because again, as you said, it's something that they've done their whole life. So I think it's an interesting point to look at. But at the same time, I really think that just in general today, everything that's, no matter what industry it is, it has somehow been infused with tech. And I think that the world of sports is one of those few industries that it's still hasn't 100% come to the world of sports, the traditional world. And then at the same time, the esports and gaming world has all this tech, but I don't think the rest of the world knows all about it yet. I know the rest of the world doesn't know about it yet. There, so many things. I mean, the simple, obvious things that we've been saying for so many years, how many young people are playing games in, high school on down. The fact that you can, these are such obvious things to your audience and to you, but like the fact that you can get a scholarship and play in college, these are things that still today, the average person does not know these things. So it's up to us to consistently talk about this and share it. It's one of the reasons why, I look at what, some of our companies are doing to promote this, to enable young people to be able to level up and continuing to level up and play from the high school level to the college to pro to really be able and to make money in this industry. Like, I think that's something that people are really, really surprised about. And then, now we're super excited about like what we're doing with Challenger, where you can play, and challenge other people and play for cash, whether that's CSGO, Warzone, Fortnite, and do it super seamlessly and do it really, really easily, right? These are the types of things that, we're so excited about the future of gaming. And I think it's, there's, this, look, as we're taping this, it's December of 2022, and there are articles out there, esports is in trouble. People aren't saying esports anymore, blah, blah, blah. Look, I think they're wrong. The gaming and it is just, it's just getting going. I think that's the part, there was sort of this wave over the last several years that may have had some issues, but this is not going away. People are still gaming. People want to compete. The world of competitive gaming is not going away. If anything, I think it's going to get better and may change. And there's a lot of reasons I can go into a lot of reasons why I believe this, but we're at a really interesting point right now within the world of esports.
Yeah, I think what we saw a number of years ago was, let's say 5 years-ish ago, is all these brands and the agencies that supported them, realized that watching traditional television was declining, participating in traditional sports was declining, and then they saw video games and said, oh my goodness, everybody is playing video games, but how do we interact with this new and unfamiliar ecosystem, especially when the consumer requires you to enter the space much more authentically than traditional sports. And I always say, if you're let's say, if you're a modern brand like Doritos, how do you get into Red Dead Redemption 2, which is an Old West style open world game? You can't do that organically. And so from my perspective, these groups saw esports and they said, wait a minute, I know this world. I've sponsored this world. You've got all these sponsorable assets, right? You've got teams, jerseys, venues, leagues, content, etc. I'll just do what I did in the NBA, and I'll do that in League of Legends or Counter-Strike or what have you, and I'll be successful. And then they found out, for a number of reasons, how to reach the consumer, but also, how the industry can support those brands in a way that deliver a return can be challenging. And so you made a point about it being a young industry. And I think people like yourself, groups like 76 Capital, when they can partner with, you said you're 52 years old, so you've got a wealth of experience and knowledge, right? Much more so than a 25-year-old entrepreneur does, who knows everything about the culture and the activities of gaming. And I think when people like 76 Capital can partner with these young entrepreneurs, collaborate and help bring each other up, then you have the best of both worlds. But I think historically, we've seen some challenges with that, where some investors or some brands aren't receiving an ROI, and there's been a little bit of a dip, or maybe it's hurt the reputation of esports, if you will. But I'm with you. I think I'm very optimistic on the future.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I think, look, we have to all recognize is, and I think a lot, everyone is, I believe, starting to forget that we went through this global pandemic. And, and then people are like, oh, it was so good for gaming. It was so good. I'm like, actually, it was a really tough thing, I think, for the overall industry. And one of the reasons why I personally believe it was tough was because I'm of the belief that there needs to be you mentioned earlier, LAN parties. That's in person, right? That's in person playing, right? And I think that when we were in a situation where everyone had to play remotely, you lose something. Right. What the fans look like. We were talking about earlier. Yeah, like should every esports big event be in an arena just like a basketball game? Maybe not. Maybe the arena should look different. Maybe things should be completely blown up, and that should be completely changed. And that experience looks different, right? But at the same time, to be able to actually to compete in a physical location that's meant for that game and for people to be able to play at that location, it's not a cafeteria. It's not an office with a drop ceiling. It's not some school stage or something like that. It's literally meant for esports. It's meant for competitive gaming.
Yeah,
it is like the schools. You cannot build a school in the United States without a gym. You shouldn't be able to build a school in the United States without having a proper competitive gaming area, whatever you want to call it. That should be a requirement.
That's really well said. Those are those things where, like we talked about a little bit earlier, is adopting the relevant things about traditional sports, but also recognizing this is not a copy and paste situation. There's so much opportunity to innovate, to make something new, to make it completely different, because it requires a new solution or it provides for a new opportunity. And so with the gymnasium thing, perfect example of kind of that copy and paste from like, hey, we do this all the time. We should also do this. I'm also a big believer in geographically located esports teams. Personally, I think there's a lot of benefits there. So I think there's aspects of that make sense to adopt. But to your point, what does the arena look like? Like, if you look at the limitations that we have in traditional sports with an arena, you have to be around a court, a field, or a rink. And so you're forced to have that seating. And we have natural kind of defaulted to the rock show model where you've got a big screen, big stage, and audience falling back. You have a completely digital ecosystem here, environment that these players are playing on. Let's get creative. Let's switch this up and let's create something that nobody's ever seen before. That's what I'm arguing.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Yeah, and what this example I was going to tell you. I mean, one of the last Overwatch events was put on and produced by the Nerd Street team in Philadelphia.
I was there. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And you saw that, like, it was in a theater, but you could actually, there were places that you could play. So, like, when you go to a basketball game, there's no, like, there's like little places to go shoot hoops, like in a little tiny, like maybe like a tiny little area to go do that, right? But it's not. But to be able to actually play while you're there, I mean, what are those experiences? Like, what should the experience be when you attend a big event like that? These are the types of things that I think we haven't gotten there yet. We're starting to figure these things out. We're trying to get there, and that's where I think that the industry has an opportunity. Like, there's an opportunity to do that, but it's an interesting time right now across the whole industry to sort of figure this all out. But we really believe in that the experience and the opportunity to connect with other people, make friends, just have that camaraderie of being together in a room in a physical way is something that really brings together this, like, the physical world, the digital world, and that's the part that just is so exciting when we think about the future of gaming.
I agree. I'm curious on, we talked about the opportunity to innovate in the arena aspect a little bit. I'm curious your perspective of some other places you see where there's opportunities for innovation, and maybe some of those are some of your investments. So I'm excited to hear a little about who you are investing in and who you're believing in the space.
Sure. I mean, one other place that I would say that I think is ripe for this, and it's one of the things that I can talk about our company Challenger is doing, which is playchallenger.com. What Challenger is doing is they're enabling you to have a cash competition, so you can play against a friend or someone you don't know, whether that's at this point right now, CSGO, with Warzone, with Fortnite, whatever it is. Like, you can play someone else and win money and decide how you want to play, right? I mean, do you want to play a certain amount of money per kill? Do you want to play certain over for just the full game? Bet someone that you'll win the whole game. Whatever it is it a head-to-head game? Is it again, like Fortnite? It's a whole different, a whole different game. So how thinking about those different pieces, but then the question is, what are some of the biggest gaming places in the world, right? And when you think of gaming from a general perspective, a lot of that conversation goes to casinos. And I think it's been a complete mess so far. And unfortunate, like most of the esports competitions that have been tried and played at casinos kind of fallen flat. They are kind of a little bit of a dud. They're not all that they could be. But at the same time, there's really smart people running casinos. There are really smart entrepreneurs that are creating the next thing in the esports competitive gaming world. Someone's going to figure this out. Mm-hmm. It hasn't happened yet. It's almost like a call right here, John, like for entrepreneurs who are just thinking about this right now, because just going into a casino and pulling a lever on a slot machine or just pressing buttons, like, and with completely brainless type activities,
right?
There's got to be a way to do this. Just by sticking a bunch of computers in an area together and connecting them and putting them next to slot machines and expecting that to work. No, that's not going to work, right? Or having an event in a ballroom all the way out in the middle of nowhere, and then expecting the competitors to walk through the casino and play blackjack and roulette. And no, that's not how a lot of the competitors of are wired, and it's not what they do to have fun.
Yeah.
So how do you bring these worlds together? How do you start thinking about this? Because as we all get older, as we all grow up, we're the ones the younger generation of gamers, they're the ones who are going to be, the casino operators are looking at them as like wanting to be their customers.
Right.
And if the games that they have on their floor are not things that they like to play, then what should they have there? What should those games be of the future? What is the blackjack of 2023?
I think that's it's a great point. I think a lot of people who have this experience, who have more years in traditional business, traditional industry, when they go to esports, there's a tendency to try to just apply what they've done and what they know to the esports industry. Like you're saying, if I just put a bunch of PCs or something in my casino, people will play it. Or if I rebrand my game and have, gaming IP on there, people will do it. And I think a great example is a lot of people, when they try to start, who come from the traditional sports space and want to throw an event, a lot of times it's people throwing a Madden event or an NBA 2K event. And I love those games. And I think they're great competitions. However, young people don't want to just do what old people do, but digitally.
Right.
Young people want to do something completely different. And so I would say, go to the community, ask some questions, and then make sure to listen. Because it's not that gamers just want to play digital football. Gamers want to play great games. And a lot of these games are aspirational. So like, I want to kill a dragon. I want to go to a war. I want to, do all these things that I can't do in real life. I don't necessarily want to play video game football, right? As at least the majority. So I think what you're saying is, rather than this copy and paste approach, is from inside of the community, okay, what do they want? What do they not yet have? And then how can we apply the business and the monetization models that we know to make that successful for everybody?
Yeah, I agree with you, but I think but I would just make one point on what you're saying is that young people don't want to play electronic football, right? I think 2K has done a nice job of actually creating almost sort of the general manager, the analytics, the pre-work, all the stuff that sort of behind the scenes within football, which has really been interesting because I think it also translates right into the world of fantasy, and then as kids get older, that kind of brings them into the world of betting. That's been really fascinating. It also allows the younger people. We're seeing this. Where a number of, whether it's entrepreneurs or people who work with us at 76 Capital, they really understand the business side of the sport of, let's say, football, right?
Right.
But I understand what you're saying. Not everyone cares about that. Right. There are certain kids, there are certain people that is exactly what they're into, and they love it. They want to be a GM, and it's a really, really good way to learn all the, the analytics and stats and how that's all sort of done, at least almost really all the way that it's done. Yeah. But it's a pretty good simulation. But then but that's not for everybody, and I think that's the point that you're making.
That's exactly right. Well, I'd love to understand some of the things that you are really optimistic on, really bullish on moving forward. You've been in the space for a while. You've evaluated investments, been involved before esports in more traditional industries, come into esports, done a fantastic job with 76 Capital in this space. What are you seeing moving forward as far as things you're optimistic on or trends that you're looking forward to?
We're really excited about the gaming and the betting side of the world, right? That's an area that we think is a really big opportunity. I think that we're in the, using a baseball analogy, first or second inning of the sports betting world and industry today. And what we see today, the apps of today, as an example, that, FanDuel or DraftKings or Caesars or MGM, Barstool, any of those, all those apps today are like version 1.0. We're kind of like when Apple only sold books. Or Apple, I'm sorry, Amazon. When Amazon only sold books, like that's what the apps and the websites look like today.
Interesting.
But in the future, and where the entrepreneurs, where the major companies, these sports betting operators that I just mentioned, and many others, and others that may haven't even set foot in the world of sports betting yet, there's this opportunity to build this next level of engagement, being able to build the gamification of this, the engagement side of this, where, you know, you and I are sitting here, you know, doing the podcast, and Amazon knows back at my house that I'm out of toilet paper. Like, right? like they know stuff about us, right? Like the sports books eventually will know that I'm a huge Philadelphia Eagles fan, a huge Philadelphia Phillies fan, and that, you know, there may be, you know, yesterday the Phillies signed Trey Turner, and we're so excited here in Philadelphia, and our Eagles have only, you know, with one loss so far across, you know, the year, and they're doing great. But like, does FanDuel, does DraftKings, does Caesars, does Barstool, how much they know about how much and how important that is, and how passionate I am about that? How can that knowledge and information that is out there, maybe because I'm tweeting about it, or maybe because I put it on LinkedIn or whatever, like, and I'm so excited about, you know, Philadelphia sports, that they then are able to make an offer to you. What that offer is, whether that's a direct bet, whether that's tickets, whether that's you know, merchandise, who knows how this will all play out moving forward. But we're going to get there pretty quickly. I think there's a number of players that are there. I know every one of them is thinking about this right now, and it can be done. But they're moving. There's a lot of other things that these sports books need to do to be able to get to this next level. You know, one of the crazy things, we talked about the pandemic earlier, this, you know, in our conversation, and, you know, sports betting was only legal in one state in the United States in 2018. Right. In May 14th of 2018, one state, that was Nevada. And all of a sudden, the Supreme Court overturns PASPA, which was the law that said you could only have that, you know, sports betting in Nevada. And then all of a sudden, all these other states came out of nowhere to be able to have sports betting. And it started pretty quickly. You know, a couple states started coming in, and Delaware, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, they started coming. But then all of a sudden, we got hit with COVID. And this pandemic. And while that was going on, state after state, they just continued to legalize this in the midst of all this. And now you're sitting with over 36 states across the United States that have passed laws already to have sports betting. The state of Ohio is going live on New Year's Eve in 2023, like New Year's Eve, 12/01, January 1st, 2023. The state of Ohio is going live. I mean, that's going to be crazy, because they have this really interesting, they're really enabling people to be involved, not only just on your phone, not only in casinos, but in retail locations tied to the professional sports teams. It's really going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. But again, the apps, the tech, it's early. The infrastructure, the integrity side of the business, the compliance side of the business, that just the overall just tech is still young. And that's where there's opportunity. And the games that you can play, right, from a betting perspective, the iCasino side of the house, which has not been legalized in as many states across the country. So right now it's only 5 states that have iCasino, where you can play blackjack and where you can play slots and things like that on your phones. But there is a chance in 2023 that New York legalizes it, iCasino. And if New York legalizes it, there's a good chance that many, many other states will follow, and that will continue. And what that then opens up, and it all kind of comes back to the gaming and esports side of thing. That all opens up, like, what is that kind of game? What game do you want to play? Why are, is it CSGO? Is it Fortnite? Is it something that no one's ever heard of before, right? Is it a new type of game, a new type of way for people to engage? That's what we're excited about. That's what we're thinking about. And those are the types of things that we do a lot of. And we think about, we meet with entrepreneurs, we meet with experts who are trying to think about like what's next in the world of sports and gaming.
Yeah, it's really interesting because we see in traditional sports so many groups now leaning really into the wagering side now that they can. And there's a lot of additional revenue coming into the space from that. But that's in a space where there's already a lot of revenue because you're doing these billion-dollar media rights deals, right? And so one major difference that we see from traditional sports and esports is the profit side of it. And because of the streaming aspect and the fragmentation, the IP challenges, those media rights deals don't work the same in esports as traditional sports. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like what you're saying is that where this much needed profit and revenue in the esports space could be coming from, could be there's this wagering side.
I think it's definitely something that we believe. It's one of the reasons why, we're investors in Challenger. But at the same time, I think it's this opportunity to rethink the way we present esports and competitive gaming today on the screen. There's a chance, there's an opportunity to do it differently. There's an opportunity to produce the events even more creatively, which potentially could bring in more dollars. I think that's something that, look, if I had the answer, I'd be doing it. I'd be telling our guys at Nerd Street the next thing that here's how you produce this in the future. I don't think anyone specifically knows yet, but I think there are opportunities to be creative around this and think about it in a different way.
I appreciate
which could bring dollars, which could really bring dollars, and again, maybe that's maybe start to really work even more closely with the brands and other advertisers that you want to bring to the world and do things differently. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you just think back there, it hasn't been a long time since, you really is Twitch, is YouTube the answer? Like, we're investors in Maestro, right? And which is a different, it's its own platform. It's your own platform that you can use to broadcast, right? Is that the right platform? Should all of these, should these teams and leagues and brands and publishers use their own platform and figure out a way to do this? We think that's another way that's what we're doing and trying to do right now, and trying to do some really interesting and unique and innovative things with what Ari Evans is doing in his team at Maestro.
Yeah, I think the content platform play is really interesting, and I need to talk to you about this afterwards. I've recently got in touch with somebody that's very compelling. You might want to learn a little bit more about.
Love that.
If I'm an entrepreneur, if I've got a startup, and I'm looking for investment, how should I contact you, and or where do I need to be? So that when I get my chance with you, when you answer my email, I've got the best chance of success for an investment?
Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to even share this, because again, without the entrepreneurs, without the ideas, we're just venture capitalists, and we just have some money to invest, right? But we need the creativity and the great minds of entrepreneurs. So I can be pretty much found anywhere. I'm Wayne at 76 Capital. I'm Wayne Kimmel all over the internet on all different social media networks. Pretty easy to find. 76capital.com is our website. Reach out via our website. Contact me directly. Talk. Reach out to any of our team members. But when you reach out, look, we of course we'd love to see your business plan. We want to be able to see, your thoughts. We want to see why what you're doing is truly the next thing, that you truly believe that you can build a company from where it is today to be $1 billion business, to be something that truly changes the world, changes the way people do things. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for really, really big ideas, big thinkers, people that are looking to take on really big challenges and just go make it happen. I mean, that's what we're all about. And, it's a scary thing to be an entrepreneur. It's tough to be an entrepreneur because as we've talked about earlier, I mean, many times when you do something, a lot of people, and you're doing something that's new and innovative, a lot of people don't know what you're doing. They don't understand what you're doing. Your mom may tell you you're crazy. Your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your uncle, is like, yo, man, get a job. What are you doing? Right? But you're like, no, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to do something that everyone, or a good part of the overall population, of the global population out there, is going to want to do what I'm and do what I'm doing or use what I'm making. That's what we're always looking for.
Man, that is a great description. And I want to thank you, Wayne, for joining me today. And then also, what you and your team have provided to the esports space. I think there's a number of entrepreneurs that would still be struggling, still be grinding, or not have gotten that chance if it wasn't for 76 Capital and that investment. And thank you so much for sharing the insights today. I learned a lot, and it's really wonderful to be able to share your perspective as an investor in this space.
Well, John, thanks for having me. And I'm very lucky. I have a great team at 76 Capital. I have whether it's my partner Chad, whether it's my partner Dan Bravado on our 76 Capital Sports Advisory team. He and Chris Yortsos and the rest of those guys. I mean, you should have those guys on the show. Those guys really know the world of esports. They've done some amazing things. They have awesome clients that they're working with on that side of our business as well. And I feel so lucky to have such great partners and good people around. And we just want to continue to expand that, invest in more entrepreneurs, work with amazing companies, and have great people around us here at 76 Capital.
I appreciate that. I'm going to shoot Dan a text and give him an invite to join me on a future episode. But Wayne, thank you so much for joining me today. Really appreciate it. It's been a great episode of the DLC Drop Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the DLC Drop Podcast. This podcast is part of the Esports Futuri Podcast Network and produced by Innovation Media Enterprises. Make sure you subscribe on your favorite podcast channel and leave us a review.